Where does this BYU-Utah rivalry rank among the all-time great rivalries in the sport?
You know, I've been telling our guys now for a week since we got this job that we got this game that I've coached in USC, Notre Dame, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, Ohio State, obviously the Wolverines, Toledo, Bowling Green. This might be the nastiest of them all. I mean, when I got here in 2003, I was shocked. I came out of the locker room right over here. It was this blizzard that day. And I was like, my gosh. And I tell people, Kyle Whittingham, because he played here in Provo, that his eyes changed color, man. This game, this is an emotion-filled game, and this is a nasty one, man.
What do you think creates the nastiness?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a Mormon, and, they consider Salt Lake to be less, I don't know. They call it the Holy War. I think the fact maybe, too, that for years under Lavelle Edwards, I'd studied this game. It was a one-sided rivalry for many years, and Ron McBride did a heck of a job getting it back to win some games. And then we went 2-0, and then obviously Coach Witt did a great job. So I don't know. It's I'm telling you, the greatest people that I've ever lived. But for 4 hours a year, it's ugly.
When you coached rivalry games, how did you handle that? Did you treat it like it was another game, or did it really have a Super Bowl?
I jumped all into the rivalry, and we called them the team down south. You weren't allowed to have any blue in the facility. I went around to every office and threw out all the blue pens, all the blue markers. You weren't allowed to wear blue at all. You could never say the 3 letters BYU was team down south. But, like the Ohio State Wolverine, you got to try to temper it as it gets closer because it's so big. This one, man, it's just different. And I've been trying to explain, I wish we were here to watch the game because we're just going to be here 8 to 10. But it's a intent. And I know Kyle Whittingham and Sataki are close, but this is very personal for these two.
Did Whittingham carry a lot of the approach that you took to this rivalry when you were here? Like, has he carried that over?
He taught me the rivalry. I didn't, he explained it to me, and I was like, really? Really? And then when that week came, I was educated by Coach Witt. And Morgan Scally and Dave Revel and my players really, this is a deep one, man.
What are you expecting from this BYU crowd? You experienced it last year, but what are you expecting this time?
Yeah, to me, it's all Dan Pierre. He was hurt. He's a little bit injured, banged up against Texas Tech. They didn't look very good offensively. He looked unbelievable last week against Arizona State. The Bear, I call him the Bear Bachmeyer for BYU, young freshman. I just think it's going to be a lot for him. The Utah defense, but he's a heck of a player. He's tough. I just think the Utah defense will stiffen up, and I'm going to, obviously, people know I'm going to pick the Utes, but I think it's going to be a heck of a game and in the most beautiful setting in college football.
Kind of on the subject of Witt, what do you think of the old DC and sort of what he's done up there?
The what?
What do you think of Witt and kind of what he's done up there? Just kind of building on sort of what you guys were doing and then obviously keep building on that.
Yeah, I'm very close with the coach, and he's as good a football coach as I've ever been around. When we worked together, I tell people those are my favorite 2 years I've ever had. I loved the state of Utah. Obviously, we woke up a sleeping giant, the Utes, and he's continued that success. And even, we're now in the Pac-12, now the Big 12. So, phenomenal coach, phenomenal friend, and I know legacy piece. He wants this one so bad.
What are your thoughts on Kalani and what he's built at BYU?
Kalani's become a friend too. He came to visit me a few times when I was in Florida. Love the guy. The guy's a great football coach. I didn't realize they're 17-2 the last 19 games. This is one of the top programs in college football. So I'm glad. Here's what it is. I'm really glad this is Big Noon. And they're national television, that the entire country gets to feel this rivalry.
You said that you kind of told some of your co-hosts, what have you specifically told them, to Leinert and all these guys about this game?
I said it's absolute street fight, and they've been looking at me not like rolling their eyes, but come on. Now they're kind of feeling it, because you can feel it while you're here. And I got a feeling tomorrow morning there's going to be some red here as well, and there'll be blue everywhere. So it's going to be kind of cool.
Big Noon prides itself on being a party. What do you think these BYU fans are going to be like towards you?
A lot of Pepsi, man. A lot of Pepsi and candy. No coffee. Now the Utes, the Reds will be down here. The Red team they'll have a cup of coffee in their hand and maybe some other things. I just, once again, in all seriousness, the love I have for this state, respect for BYU, respect for Utah's immense.
Coach, do you think the rivalry's changed at all since these two programs got together in the Big 12?
I was so crushed when they took it from the last game of the season. This game should be played on Thanksgiving, and it should be played for the Beehive. It should be, but once again, there's a lot of things moving nowadays.
Why do you believe there's so much parity in this Big 12 conference?
Boy, I don't know, man. It's something, isn't it? We saw Texas Tech in person. Right now, they're the cream of the crop until BYU proves us different. Utah, the winner of this one will be a strong bid for a college football playoff spot. But I think Texas Tech right now is separate themselves a little bit. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
When you hear about the BYU-Utah rivalry, what comes to mind?
Oh man, I mean, this is one of probably, I don't know if nationally it's known for the amount of, like, I don't want to say hatred, but disliking between the two. We've done enough Utah BYU games, and Coach, having coached at Utah, has made us very aware of the fact that neither of these two teams like each other. Again, two very well coached teams, though, two great programs. So we're excited. We're excited to see the atmosphere, what this game looks like, and obviously, the winner is going to still kind of stay in the contention for the Big 12. The other one's going to be, hoping things go their way.
What did Coach tell you about the rivalry?
It's nasty. I mean, it was funny. We were talking in the meeting about, like, hey, we're not using the word respect, and he's like, no. He's like, the fans are nasty towards each other, and that's, I think he's coached in Ohio State, Michigan, so he understands, like, how big these rivalries are, and that's the best way he said to describe it. So, again, like, kind of curious to see if any Utah fans show up, and if they do, what that looks like.
What's your evaluation of the two quarterbacks?
Well, obviously, two very different in regards to their career and experience. I mean, Bear just got here in June, and it's really tough playing as a true freshman. I went through that. You're trying to manage class and develop chemistry with the guys you're throwing to, and then what you're seeing from the defense and all that. And I think he's done a really admirable job. And he's a guy who's kind of gritty, playmaking ability. Kind of reminds me of like a right-handed Tebow a little bit. But I won't put way too ahead of ourselves. But he's got that sort of moxie about him. And then Devin, we saw earlier this year. Unfortunately, he's playing banged up, had an ankle injury, playing against Texas Tech, and Tech jumped on him, got ahead of him, and it was a rough outing for him. But obviously, explosive runner, very capable of on any given play taking it to the house. The question is, if BYU forces him to be able to put the ball down the field, how effective can really either quarterback be doing it? But it's going to come down to which one of these guys doesn't make that mistake that I think breaks the back in this game.
What do you think it would mean for BYU to win 3 in a row in a rivalry game, and just in general, what does that do for a program? Yeah,
it's funny. I think we're having on a couple former Cougars who are coming on, and none of them beat Utah during their time. And so, look, I went up against that with SC and Matt during one of the greatest eras they've ever had, Southern Cal, and it's tough, because these are the sorts of things you look back on and remember. So 3 in a row is big, but if you make it 4 and you go through the entire class or that eligibility, it's even that much more.
What are your thoughts on the strength of the Big 12 this year?
Well, I'd say the Big 12 this year is kind of shaping into like what it was last year a little bit. There's just a lot of parity. A lot of teams where I don't know that the worst team is that far off from some of the top teams. I do think Texas Tech has separated themselves from everyone else at this point. The improvements they've made defensively, up front, how much they've invested, that's been well documented. But, even if Baron Morton goes out, we saw Will Hammond come in and sling it around versus Utah in that matchup earlier this year. So they've got a lot of weapons, a lot of ability. I think it's kind of Texas Tech and then a lot of other really good teams biting for that spot, and it's going to get crazy. Like, it's going to start tomorrow where it'll be crazy, and then we'll see as the weeks ensue who can play spoiler and who can survive.
Do you think BYU is a byproduct of just a weaker schedule so far? Do you feel like this can carry on throughout this season?
No, it could carry on. I mean, look, the best teams figure out how to win in a variety of ways. And I think that's what tomorrow's probably going to be for BYU specifically is if I'm Kyle Whittingham, who's got a wealth of knowledge and experience and had success, he's seen this game a time or two, and you put a true freshman in a position where you make him have to win the game. And if a true freshman's able to win it with his arm, where he doesn't have the ability to rely on his athleticism running the football, you take your hat off. You give him credit. But that, to me, is the simplest way of saying, let's stop LJ, let's stop the rushing attack with Bear as a part of it, and then let's put this all on this young man's shoulders, and we'll see if he can make a play.
Do you see this as an eliminator game for the Big 12 title game?
Yeah, of sorts, and I think because of the rest of the schedule for both teams, moving forward, and for Utah, it's even tougher because they've already lost to Tech. So I don't know if they can afford to lose to. I could be wrong. Again, it's the Big 12. It's crazy. I mean, we've seen how this stuff can work out, where you're waiting to the last week of the season to see who's going to play that one of the teams in the Big 12 championship game.
BYU has started 6-0 for the first time in consecutive seasons in program history. What can you say of your opinion of Kalani Sitake and what he's built here?
Absolutely love him. I think he's so good for college football. He's so good at being able to resonate and connect with today's student athlete. I love the passion that he brings and the consistency. I think and I've called games, for him before, and he's continued to evolve, I think, as a coach, but at the same time, he's done a tremendous job of being able to maintain a standard, and I think that's what you're seeing the past 2 years in particular. So always a big fan of Kalani, a ton of respect for the program he's built. I should say he's kind of taken over too, but just the job he's done, how consistent they are.
Last year we saw Cosmo jumping out of a plane at this event. What's he doing tomorrow?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. They don't tell us anything. So I'm excited to see. That's part of the joy coming here. Obviously, it's scenic. It's beautiful. Everyone here is awesome. But Cosmo's a big piece of it as well. I know my kids. I got 5 kids, so one's probably too young, but the other 4 are excited to see Cosmo tomorrow.
What did you think last year of the BYU fans, the atmosphere, and what do you expect tomorrow?
It was incredible. I mean, this is it creates such a tough environment. I think actually one of the things that flies under the radar is you've got these big games and these big atmospheres is how hard it is to communicate for the defense. Everyone always is like, oh, Utah's offense is going to struggle. So is the defense. And especially when you go up tempo and those guys have to communicate the calls and coverages and everything else. So, both those guys are getting the radio call for their helmet, but for the defense, it gets hard to hear and then echo that to everyone else. So got to have signals, got to be able to play fast. And sometimes you get caught with some blown, missed calls or blown assignments because of that.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brady.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.